Can you guys see Power Automate desktop flow opened on my screen? Okay, good. So this is module 5, the module from our last session about UI elements and selectors. I've brought this up today is because one point I wanted to mention. These are the selectors that we created for the web application first name, last name, submit. When I open any of the selectors in the selector window, if you go to any element, and then here we have the attributes, properties and values that we saw. So I just want to add one point that in this value you can even add variables if you want to make it even more customized and dynamic. That is the point I didn't mention in the last session. That's why I'm making it here. Is this portion clear? Okay, so I'll close mod 5. Today we are into module 6. So module 6 is automating everyday applications. Whatever we have seen so far is going to be very handy. Lots of things we are going to now learn and move forward. So anything that we saw so far, data tables, loops, variables, different kinds of iterations, conditional statements, those are going to be useful while automating our day-to-day applications. Now what these day-to-day applications are, obviously one of the most widely used application in every RPA use case is Excel. So within Excel, we are going to see how to read the data, iterate through Excel data, getting the empty row and a column, and I'll tell you why it is needed. Then reading directly from Excel instead of first taking it into a data table, directly reading it from Excel, then writing to Excel, saving Excel and its different allowed formats, and obviously running of macros are necessary with and without parameters. They're generally necessary in case you are automating a use case where you have been told that something is already available in the macro and you just need to keep the macro as it is but continue from where the macro ends. So in that case, no need to rewrite the entire pad flow again. It would be a waste of time. Simply call that macro, run it, generate the output and continue with your desktop flow with the rest of the activities. So we need to know macro calling also. Obviously, the second widely used application in any RPA use case is Outlook. So we'll be seeing reading, sending and writing of HTML emails, not just plain emails, HTML emails also. Database is another thing used. So database operations of firing of SQL queries, and then Windows and web automation. So what we saw in the earlier session were using recorders. Directly used recorders to create UI elements and selectors and then access the Windows and web application. So this time we'll be making use of actions and doing the same thing. There won't be much difference in it. You will be able to relate to it easily, but it's part of the learning, so you will have to know that. Launching a web page, launching a desktop application, reading, writing operations to these applications. And apart from the conventional reading, writing, launching operations, there are some important Windows and web automation actions that also we are going to see in this module. So beginning with the first daily used application, Excel. Let's see reading and iterating through Excel data. And by the way, I have placed the exercise files in the Google Drive that I've shared with you. One folder is with recordings, another folder is with exercise files and even links that I have been pinging you on the chat window. There is one Word file which has got those links, so that instead of pinging the links during the session, you can directly take it from there. So in our case, we'll take this as a sample input Excel. Let's see its structure before accessing it. Yeah, this is a Excel which has got few columns, about 9 columns and 50 rows, including the header. It becomes 51. So, and the name of the sheet is data set that will be required. I'll close the file. I'll do a Control Shift C, which is equivalent to right click and copy as path. That's a shortcut key for copying the path of the file. I'll go to the newly built mod 6 flow, and the first action ever to interact with an Excel is launch Excel. you need to first launch the Excel. We are not going to open a blank document. It's going to be an existing document. I paste the path. Now because I did a Control Shift C, it also uses double quotes. So I need to remove the double quotes from the beginning and end. And rest all as of now I keep as it is. One thing to note is the output variable produced, that is the Excel instance type of variable, which we'll be requiring in the subsequent actions. After launching, a good practice is to set the right sheet. You activate the correct sheet because there could be many sheets. In our case, it is just one. So set active Excel worksheet is the action. Here is the Excel instance automatically populated because right now we have only one instance, and it asks whether you want to activate the sheet using name or index. We saw the name was data sets. Was it data sets plural or singular? Just let me do a quick look. That's data set singular. So an extra S is over there. So we have activated the right sheet that we want. Let me also take you to the Excel group of actions. Just by hovering the mouse, you will know a rough overview of what it does. So what we want is read from Excel worksheet. I drag that, use the same instance. It has got various options to read. That is, if you just want to read a single cell of, if you want to give a range, or if you want to first select the data from the sheet and then read that. In our case, you'll be using all available values from the worksheet, or you can even give a named range. That is a feature of Excel. If you give a name range, you can read those cells also. So we'll read all available values from an Excel worksheet and click on save. And a good practice is to close the instance that you have opened. Close Excel, use the same instance. Right now I'll not save the document because we are just reading and we are not doing any write activity. So two flow variables have been generated and it's time to run the flow. It has launched the Excel. The instance is not visible because there is one of the properties in this action which would say whether you want to make the instance visible or not. I believe that's already made to visible or not. Okay, make instance visible. So that's why I saw an Excel opened in my taskbar and it got closed because of this close Excel. But the point here is we have read all the data from the Excel sheet. There were 51 rows and 9 columns as I showed you initially. And these are the rows and columns. Now two things I want to show. Let me keep the Excel opened. So if you can see, there is a column header, whereas in our data table, this is a data table type of variable. That's why it was important for us to learn all those variables at first. So you see the column header becomes the first row of the data, whereas it should be the actual column headers. So that is one thing we need to change. And secondly, if you see column 8, that is the end date, it shows date as well as time. And if you see over here, it has got just the date along with the month in 3 alphabet format. So these two things we are going to fix now. And the way to fix that is when you read from Excel worksheet, I'll maximize the parameters for you. In the advanced section, it says get cell contents as text. If you hover the mouse over the eye information icon, it says specify whether to retrieve the content of the cell purely as a text. So that date issue that was there, that will get sorted out because it will not convert to date time and it will purely read only the text part of it, which is only the date part. So I need to enable this. Secondly, as it's self-explanatory, first line of range contains column names. I am mentioning it explicitly that my first row is the column header row. So I enable that too and save it. And this time, let's just run it once again. These are important parameters to know. That's why I showcased it. There's the Excel instance opened and in memory it's opened. Visible at the taskbar I can see now. So it's not just in the memory, now it's open on my PC also. Read the Excel and close the Excel file. So this time it's not 51 rows, it is 50 rows because the first row is automatically turned into a header and the end date issue has been now sorted out. Clear with the reading part of Excel? Okay. Now let me show you one more concept that is required while interacting with Excel. Let's take a few lines of data and copy it into this sheet. Okay. Let's say you already have 5 rows of data in your Excel and you want to start writing from where it ended previously in this way. So for that, you will need to know the recently available row. The first available row you need to be aware of. Only then you will be able to do that. Because these records could be 5 records, 10 records, 50, 100 and so on. So it's like adding on data. Let's say you have to generate a report or it could be any use case. So in that case, you will now find the first available row. And the scenario that I'm trying to explain is a use case. Let's say your bot runs at 6 a.m. It writes, let's say 10 rows. Same bot runs at 7 a.m. This time it writes 20 rows, but it should start writing from the 11th row. It writes 20 more records. These are records. This is the time. This is the row number. And again, let's say the bot runs on an hourly basis at 8 a.m. So this time it should add up both of the above two runs and then continue from where the previous data was written. Are you clear with this concept? Okay. So I'll not save my sheet. Yeah. I'll just close it without saving. But let's see. Our data is still 51st row. This is the Excel row we are talking about, not the serial number or the ID column. So Excel row is 51, but with the header, it has got 50 rows. So I'll not save it and go back to our flow. So now we are in the Excel list of actions. So this is the action that we want to look at now. Get first free column or row from the Excel worksheet. As simple as the name suggests. It uses just the instance variable and look at the output variables produced. It will give you the first free column, first free row. In certain cases, you might need the columns also to append new columns on the right hand side. Right now we are talking about only first row, but this will generate both the variables. We have launched the Excel, set the active sheet, and let's say we are reading the data, and now we want the first free row. You don't need to read it. I'll temporarily disable it because since you have given the Excel instance, it will automatically pick the file. And let's display the values, or perhaps let's make use of the variable pane itself. So first free column and first free row is what we are going to keep a watch on. And let's run it now. I believe there were 50 rows and 9 columns. Yeah, 9 plus 1 is 10. First free column. Perhaps I think with the there were 51 rows or 50 rows. First free row it is showing as 52. Let's go onto the file and check the header and the remaining 50 rows. So I believe 1 plus 50 is 51, and that's why it has added 1 to make it 52. Let's do a control down arrow. Yeah, Excel row is 51. That's right. So that's why the first available free row is 52. So now you have the column as well as the row where you want to add your data, and then you can make use of these variables while writing it to Excel. And let me just show you a quick write related action. Yeah, write to Excel worksheet. If I add it after here, the instance variable value to write, for dummy purposes, let's write something new value on specified cell. Now this time let's give it dynamically. I want to start writing from the first column itself. So I could use either alphabet A, or I could even write 1 over here. Both are allowed. So I'll use A. This time my row will be dynamic. It will be the first free row. So in short, it will write on A52. I'll put a breakpoint before closing the file so that we can view the outputs. You can even write a full data table. Right now I have written just a single value. You can even dump a full entire data table onto the Excel sheet, even a list variable. Perhaps I'll need to increase the run delay because now there are no UI based interactions. I can increase the speed. There the Excel is open in the background. Let's do a control down arrow, and if you can see, the new value has been written to A52. It has started from where the previous data has ended. Clear with this concept? Okay, let's stop the flow. I'll not save the file. What do we have next? Getting the first empty row column is done. Iterating through Excel data. The part that I showed you was reading from Excel data, but iterating through Excel data is what is most of the times needed. So we need the first free column row. We'll remove the write to Excel worksheet. Okay, we'll do one thing. We'll disable this also. We'll make use of the Excel data table that we have. So we are launching the Excel, setting the first sheet, the data sheet, as the active sheet, then reading the entire Excel sheet into a data table called as Excel data. And now we are going to read this Excel data. So what is used to read a data table? I need answers from you. Excel data is a data table. So how can I read data from a data table? We looked in the variables topic. How will we access the row and column? Which action should I use here? Okay, so you need to definitely go through the recordings. So you can use a for each loop to iterate through a data table. Yeah. So as you can see, I had showed you iterates over the items in a list or a data table variable or a data row. In our case, the value to iterate is the Excel data, and the current record of that data table is stored in a variable called current item. Obviously, we can rename this variable. We have the corresponding end of it. So let's do a display. So if I print current item, it will print the entire row. But let's say if I want just the current item into bracket name. Just let me check if the name case is first alphabet is capital, or if it's small. So we are simply using the current item and using the header of the current item. So N is capital over here. I had showed this to you in the data table exercise, how we can read the particular column data and row data. So we are simply fetching the current item of name, and yeah, it's time to run the flow. So these Excels are placed in the exercise folder. Take time to practice these exercises. I can see the Excel opened in my taskbar. It has read. Keep a watch over here. Yeah, 50 rows and 9 columns. Excel data has got the data, and now it has displayed the name. The first name, the name was John in the first row. Now there are 50 rows. So if I keep on clicking them, it will iterate to the next row and show all the different names. This is how I access the name. Anything I want. I can even use any other column also. Now since there are 50 rows, I will just stop the flow here itself. I won't go through till the last row. That was about iterating through the data, getting the first empty row is done, and reading directly from Excel. So just now how we read is we read the data into an Excel data table, and then we are making further manipulations to it, either reading it or whatever actions we need to perform it. But now I will show a way to directly read it from within the Excel itself. So for that, let me disable this part, and even reading from the conventional way I'll disable. And this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to loop from the first row till the last row and simply access each of the cell values. That's it. So I'll use the loop which we have already seen. Loop. Now I want to start from, I know that my first row is a header, so I'll start from 1. I'm sorry, 1. This is Excel's variable, not the loop index. So 1 is Excel header, so 2 is from where my data starts. And till where I want to iterate? Till the, okay, so we have disabled, correct. So we have disabled this. Let's take that. So let's pull this up. We want the last row dynamically, not in a hard-coded way. So we are going to find out the first free row. Correct. So from here, first free row and -1. We can even give a space for better clarity and increment each row, that is by 1. And the variable that increments is the loop index variable. Now let's do the same display, but this time using, enable this. I won't make use of the current item. That's why it's throwing the error. Okay, my loop is iterating from 2 till the last row -1. So, and loop index is my variable that's, it's like a counter variable that starts from 2. And why did I take a display message? Okay, I should have taken a read first. Let's do that. I'm going to read each cell value using a loop. That's what I'm doing. So Excel instance as it is, this time we'll do that John, Mary without using a for each loop on Excel data directly, without on a data table, directly we'll do it from within the Excel itself. So value of a single cell and start column, I know that name is in column B and start row is, it starts from 2. So because this is in a loop, loop index will keep on 2, 3, 4, and Excel data is just the name of a variable. I can simply make it as var names because this is a variable that is going to hold all the names. So I don't need to, I can display it or I can see the variable window. Let's keep it displayed similar to the earlier exercise. This time I'll display var name because that is where each of the names are stored. And now let's run it. I have a breakpoint on close. At the same time, okay, let me now do the run delay to 1. Let's see how fast it becomes. Okay, run delay is the time between two actions, so the rest of the actions should be a bit fast. I can see an Excel opened. There it is, John. Mary is the second one. Yeah, working fine. Perfect. So what we are doing is, nowhere we took a data table. So from the Excel sheet into a data table and then make manipulations inside the data table. Let's say we have to make changes in that Excel data. We can directly use this approach. Instead of read, you can directly give a cell value and write to it, just like how I showed earlier. I'll stop the flow. So we had used the write to Excel worksheet. So similarly, you can write to whichever index you want. I'll just double click it, not drag it. So just like how you gave B and loop index, so likewise you can, whatever new value you want to write, you can, within this loop you can write as well as read without making use of a data table. Is this part clear? This was reading directly from Excel, and the same you can do writing also. Is this part clear? Okay. Yeah. So writing to Excel actions, um, we have written a single value. Let's do one thing. So you learn a new action also that is not mentioned over there. I'll disable all these. I'll read all the data of the data table. I'll explain the flow once everything is ready. So this should not be a loop. I'll read all available values of the Excel worksheet and store it in a data table called Excel data. Now what we are going to do is Excel file is opened and I'll show you what. So there is a sheet called data set. What we will do is copy the data from this sheet and create one new sheet and write this data into that particular sheet. So far we just wrote a single value earlier. At the last we wrote a single cell value, that is new value. Instead of that, this time we will use entire data table to dump into a new sheet altogether. So let's do that. First I'm launching the Excel, setting the active worksheet. This may not be required because read from Excel worksheet automatically reads all the available values from the sheet. So let's disable it. We have our data in Excel data, and let's go to the Excel list of actions. I can even type there to create a new worksheet, but I'll show you. So just look for something that talks about creating a sheet. So here it is, add a new worksheet. So after reading the data from the first sheet, add a new worksheet, name the new worksheet as data set copy, and add worksheet as the first worksheet or the last worksheet. Let's make it last worksheet. So it will be added towards the end. Now we have added a new worksheet and we are going to write to that worksheet. What are we going to write? We already have the data stored in Excel data from the first sheet that we are going to write to this sheet. Excel instance, value to write. This time I wanted to show you how we write a data table. On specified cell, obviously we want to write from first row, first column. You can either use 1, 1 or you can use A1. Let's check it out. And we are not closing the file, and I straight away run it. So it could be used for anything. Let's say you are getting a data from a website and stored in a data table. That data table you want to write inside an Excel sheet. You could make use of such things. Write to Excel worksheet, and it went to close Excel. Let me open the sheet, the taskbar. As you can see, data set copy, and all the data is copied over here. Clear with the writing part? Writing a data table itself. Okay, now I'll close the Excel, not save it, stop the running flow. Let's move over to the next topic. Saving Excel. So there are two ways of saving. I'll just remove the unwanted actions so that you can see. Okay, we have only these many actions, assume. So there are two ways to save an Excel. One is from the close Excel action itself. If you remember, we used do not save the document. So any changes we made were not saved. So there are other options. Save the document. It will simply save it in the existing format and leave it. Let's say your file is in XLSX format. It will save it in the same format and continue forward to the next actions of the flow. Let's say you want to save your document as other extensions, XLSM, XLS. Yeah, these are the different types of formats given by PAD. And document path is where you want to save this file. If you click this, it will open the folder dialog box. You can simply give the path and it will save the file over there. This was one option. Second option is, let me type save, and save Excel is the option. You can see similar type of parameters, Excel instance, save document, but I'll explain to you the difference in a minute. Save document is saving the document as it is and doing nothing. Save document as is the different parameters, the different formats, and the path. So when you use save, so I have not given a parameter, that's why it's thrown an error. Let's say you don't want to close your Excel file. I'll disable this, and you save it only using the save Excel file and save Excel action, and you continue your rest of the actions. Is this part clear? Let's say, yeah, let's say you simply want to save your Excel and do not want to close it, and whatever flows are actions are written below it, those will get executed. But you simply want to close your Excel file without using the save Excel. Why to use two different save operations? So in that case, you will simply use the close part and give the parameter here as save document. Your file will get closed. You no longer need that Excel, let's say, in your flow. You will simply close it. Clear with two options of save? Should I move on? Okay, great. So now we have running a macro with and without params. Let's build a new subflow itself altogether. Macro calling. I want to show you the macro before calling it. Again, this XLSM file is there in your exercises folder. Okay, the sheet is obviously blank. If you go to the developer menu and then the Visual Basic or even the macros, you'll be able to see the macros. So there is module 1. It has got two macros. One is called without params intentionally. One is called with params, which takes two parameters. Number 1 as integer and number 2, it will perform its addition, store it in a variable called output, and display that in a message box. The addition is whatever the addition of the two numbers are. So we are going to call both and see what their syntaxes are. I'll close the file. I'll do a Control-Shift-C to copy its path. Go to pad. To interact with an Excel for the first time, you need to use Launch Excel. Drag it. I want to open the following document, and because Control-Shift-C uses a double quotes inside it, I'll remove it. And it's up to me. I can even open it as read only. Let's say this time I'll keep it as read only and save it. And obviously there is an action specifically for macro. I type macro and it will say run Excel macro. Okay, memory issue. Let's drag it again. Obviously this time we have a new instance created, which is Excel2 generated out of this action. The macro, perhaps the exact name was without params. We'll verify it. I'll click on save. Now we are going to call both the macros one after the other. So I'll do a Control-C, Control-V and call the first one, that is without params. The second one, I believe it's with params. And the way to pass the parameter is using semicolon. Now the two numbers were the parameters, so I pass 10 semicolon 20. Okay, with params semicolon 10 semicolon 20. Save it. And a good practice is to close the Excel file, although I'll not close it right now. I'll simply add it and put a breakpoint. This time again instance is 2. Do not save the document and put a breakpoint over here. It doesn't matter because it will anyways display the message boxes from those macros. Now just let's verify whether without params and with params the name is exact. You either press Alt F11 to go into the macros or go to the developer and Visual Basic. So with params V capital, P capital, this is a plural, and W capital, and it looks fine. It's time to run the flow. This time I do a run from here, taking time to create an instance. There I can see at the bottom something flashing. Yeah, this is a macro without parameters. Click on OK. It will execute the third statement over here. The addition is 10 plus 20 is equal to 30. Clear with running of macros? Do we have next? Until then, let's save what we have built so far. After Excel, it's Outlook or any email application. By that I mean SMTP or IMAP emails. I'll show. So the Outlook requires the desktop Outlook application. It cannot interact with the web version of Outlook. So you need to have that on your machine, and we'll be seeing reading, sending, writing emails, but in a different approach. Let me build a new subflow for emails. Okay, the set of actions for Outlook related ones are called as Outlook itself. Can you see where is Outlook? There it is. I expand it. So I'll first explain what we do for an Outlook, interacting with Outlook related emails. It's mandatory to use launch Outlook, just like launch Excel. This will launch your Outlook instance. It creates the Outlook instance, just one variable. I save it, and depending on, let's say you want to retrieve the emails, read the emails, or send the emails. Let's say you want to send the emails. It takes the Outlook instance as the first parameter. Then the account is what let's say you have multiple accounts, so you can use whatever email account is there. Send email message from this account, or you have another mailbox. You can leave it account. 2 is again going to be some email address. Then the carbon copy, blind carbon copy, subject, body. Body is HTML. I'll show it to you while sending an email. You can send the email as a plain text or a HTML text. If you don't want to send this, or just simply save this email in the draft for future reference, you can turn on this toggle. That is for saving it as a draft. It will be in your drafts folder in Outlook. In the attachments, if you can hover your mouse over the eye information icon, can you see what it says? Enclose multiple files in double quotes and separate them by a space character. Let's say you have multiple files to attach. C:"file1.xlsx. I give a space, double quotes, C:"file2.xlsx. Finally click on save. Okay, now this action I'm going to show it to you using another email related action, that is the emails tab over here. Both are the same. You will see now in a minute. Retrieve emails, process emails, send emails. Only thing is, it doesn't need Outlook installed on your machine. So let's send an email, but it requires some IMAP server or SMTP server. So okay, Gmail has an SMTP server information, so let's make use of that. Here are the SMTP parameters. You need to find out the SMTP details, and I'll tell you how to do that. Before that, okay, this is a Gmail address where we are going to see the email. Sender display name, let's put it this way, 2. We'll send it to the same address for verification purpose. C, subject, test email from pad. Body, So this time we will, instead of simply writing some text in plain text format, we'll use the HTML. For that you need to know the HTML markup language. So hi, and break tags are used for new lines. I'm going to give a break tag twice over here. This is an email from pad, and this is a tag to make the text as bold. The starting and ending tags, that is B. Again, I want to give some new line over here to make it look good, and then thanks. Okay, body is HTML. Attachments, again same concept. Now we'll look at the SMTP section part. It needs the SMTP server, SMTP port, and okay, authentication and this. So I'm going to my Edge browser, and I'll ask Copilot for these details. These are available via Google search also. SMTP details for Gmail. Okay, here are the SMTP details. So SMTP address is one of which it needed. Rest is my username password. So as you can see here, password, it requires an app password, it says, if two-step verification is enabled. So if we'll check for multi-factor authentication also. So I've copied the SMTP address and the port is 587. So SMTP server details over here, I paste it. The port was 587, and secured socket layer I need to use. Accept untrusted certificates. SMTP server needs authentication. That is what it was talking about, passwords. So username and password. Now I go to Gmail and at first show you, create app password in Gmail. This is what you need to search, because if you saw in the Copilot, for using the authentication, it says you need to create an app password first. Here it is, create an app password. I'm showing it to you Gmail way, but let's say if your customer has some SMTP, you simply need to take it from them, the SMTP details, and put it in that action. But I'm showing you in a step-by-step way how to do it for Gmail. So sign in with app passwords. I click on this documentation link, and then I need to create and use that app password. That's what Copilot told me. So for creating that, I need to go here, create and manage your app passwords. Okay, so here is where you create that app password. You give some name over here. Okay, ABCD I'm putting here, and you click on create. What it will do is it will generate a 16-character app password. I've already created it some time ago, and that's what I'm going to use now. So let me go here to our pad details, to the password area. That 16-character app password is what you need to put over here. And there are two options: direct password to input or password input as a variable also. So if I type something over here, it will mask that password. So I'm now typing that 16-digit app password that I had created, and this is the Gmail that I'm using for that app password. So I believe everything is done, and now I'll click on save. Let's try to send an email and see if it works as per what we had configured. Still executing the action. There it is. It has executed, and let me go to the inbox of this account. There it is. Test email from pad. I click on it. Now I'll show you the HTML part. After hi, we typed two break tags. Then we gave this sentence in bold. That's why it's in bold. And again again two new lines. Again break tags. But remember, I had given thanks, and below it I had typed VGR. But because it's an HTML enabled, it typed it next to it itself. But you have sent an email using SMTP. Any questions on this? Clear with this? If you have Outlook desktop application on your machine, try the same actions. Okay. Thanks, Kirtish. Got your confirmation. So if you have Outlook, let me just once show you the send email of Outlook also. It has got everything same except the SMTP part, and the launching part of Outlook is not used in the other action. All same things are there. So try it out. This is widely used in our use cases. Now we have sent an email. How about reading the emails? I'll retrieve the emails. This is very much needed. This time it has got an IMAP server, and let's see the filters. The mail folder is inbox. Retrieve all messages whether it has been unread or read. So I'll do an unread email messages only and go there and mark this as unread. Okay, unread email message only, and after reading it, should I mark it as read or not? I'll leave it as it is. From field, for now we are reading emails, so we don't need it. If you want to filter your emails using specific from to subject body criteria, then you can do that. This will save your attachments to a particular folder. Right, earlier one was attaching it to an email. Now as soon as you do a save attachments, it will ask you to give a folder path where you want to save your attachments. I won't save it. Again the same concept, but let's take the IMAP server details from Copilot's help. It's there in the Gmail documentation also, but we'll just read it out from Copilot. IMAP details for Gmail. Okay, port number is 993. I think that is already what was mentioned over there. This is the IMAP address, authentication required, and again an app password. So let's go there, and 993 port is already written. I just need to add the IMAP server. Let me use the same 16 character app password that it gave me. Okay, what's the email address? I toggle this on. This is enabled. The output variable, as you can see, it says retrieved emails. This is the one, the output variable. And let's disable the sending of email and simply read the emails. There is only one unread email over there. This is very much required to read emails from Outlook or anywhere else. I'm going to show you next how to access the individual properties of an email. Yeah, I have this variable populated. Looks like it has read something. This is the variable. It is a list of mail messages type of variable. Can you see the same things that we had used in the sending of email? Attachments were not there. This is the body with HTML, body text without HTML, no CC, the date time of the email, from, mail folder, subject to, and a unique ID that an email has. Now most of the times we need to read the body of the email for RPA use cases. So let's say we want the body text. Since this is a list email, we are going to use a for each loop. This is a list type of variable, the retrieved emails. Value to iterate is the retrieved emails, and it's stored in current item, individual records. Now let's display further what that individual record has. Current item was our variable. So when I expand current item, can you see based on the type of variable, it is automatically showing me attachments, body, body text, CC, everything about that email. So the one that we are talking about is, perhaps let's take body text and click on save, and let's run and see how it goes. We need to retrieve emails again, because if I run it from here, the variable gets wiped out and it won't be having any emails to read. Current item should get populated also. Perfect. Body text. This is what was there in the body of that email. Clear with this? I'm going to give you an exercise. It's not there in my slides, but just now verbally I'm going to give you an exercise, not for doing now. Are you clear with this? Okay. I'll tell you one exercise. This is not there in the slides. You can do it at your own leisure, but this is required for pad scenarios. You can use Outlook if you have Outlook on your machine, or use this approach. But while retrieving emails, what is there and what is not there is in the filters. You have everything, but you don't have filters related to date. Meaning, if you want to fetch the emails of a particular date, let's say from the past 1 week, you don't have that filters over here. But as you saw while reading the emails, once you capture all the emails in the variable list, you have something called as date and time earlier that I mentioned. Now, are you getting where I'm going? So you need to do an assignment for yourself to filter the emails from the last 1 week, let's say past 7 days. So if you take the current item, you have the date of the email. Yeah. Now you know how to use these variables. You need to simply add if statements, check the date, whether if it is within the past 7 days, and you can perhaps even write to an Excel file, the subject of that email. Now I have showed you Excel also. So like that, for the past 7 days, write emails into an Excel file, the subject of the email, the body of the email, the from sender, the to CC, so forth. Clear with the exercise? Okay, even if you use Outlook actions, let me show. This is a common interview question which is asked if you go for pad interviews. How will you filter out emails of a particular date? Generally, people from other RPA tools background, they give this answer that I will simply add dates over here in the filter and I will filter the emails. But as you can see here, you cannot filter it using date time. Okay. Let's move forward. So you saw HTML emails, sending of emails, reading of emails using Outlook is the same concept, and using SFTP IMAP. So database related operations. Okay. So database has its own group of actions. Here it is called as database. Simple. Opening an SQL connection to any database, MySQL or SQL Server or any other. Firing your SQL statements. Okay, I'll just show you by opening one by one. Obviously, first is the creating of the SQL connection instance. Okay, this is the open SQL connection action. You provide a connection string from here, or there is a wizard button over here from where you can build. This is applicable to any tool, even in VBA or VB scripting. You need to build a connection string first to interact with the database. So you give the provider and then they set the connection. If it's Access database also, you can use the database. SQL Server will show up in the drop downs. This is one way using the wizard. Although for Access now, Microsoft has launched action over here just in the last update. If you can see where I am hovering my mouse, Access is there. So you can only for Access you can use Access database, you can use that action, but for other database you can use this particular action. So either you type your connection string here or build it through the wizard, and then this is the SQL connection instance type of variable, a handle to that connection, and then go to the execute SQL statement action and write your SQL statements here, SQL select star from or even stored procedures. This is the plain simple way to access, interact with a database. Now I'll show you the same concept but using Excel as a database, by treating Excel as a database. Have you heard of this concept, treating Excel as a database? Okay, good. So I'll explain that concept even if you have heard that for the first time. So financialdb.xlsx is the file, Excel file, and what treating Excel as a database does is we can fire SQL queries on an Excel file and treat it as if it is a database. It is generally used for Excel files that has got large volume of data. For simple Excel files, you can use the conventional approach that I showed at the beginning of this session. But let's say if this is the Excel file, I do a control down arrow. There are 700 rows, including the header. It's 701 rows. So it's like a large volume of data. And we are going to fire SQL queries on this Excel file, same way as we are going to interact with any other database like SQL Server or MySQL. The name of the sheet is records, plural. Let's remember that. And there is a column called as country also. Okay, first task would be to open the SQL connection. As it dragged. Now you can build that using this wizard also simply by selecting the right provider and options and the name of the database and server. But I wanted to show you a good database also. To build a connection string, it's called as connectionstrings.com. You will get, there is a double S over there. You will get the connection strings for every single database over here, including Excel. That's why I wanted to show this. Yeah, as you open it, connection string reference for these many types of databases. You might not even have heard about these databases. So the one we want is Excel. And within Excel, there are different providers. So I will use the ACE OLEDB provider because that is the easiest one. If you don't have that provider, it will give an error and you can install it from the Microsoft website. You can simply Google for Microsoft Access Provider, ACE OLEDB provider, and it will give you the installation link to install that provider. And I'm scrolling down to the latest version, whatever is available here. This is 2010, we don't want. And among 2013 for XLSX type of files, I will pick this connection string and paste it over here. Even if you build it through the wizard, it will do the same thing. In the end, it will generate this connection string over here and give it to you in this box. Provider Microsoft ACE OLEDB 12.0. Data source is the path of the Excel file. Obviously, we will have to give our Excel file path over there. Okay, there it has maximized. So let's go to the exercise folder, Control Shift C, and from here till here is my Excel path. Control V, remove the double quotes and leave other things as it is. Properties Excel 12.2 XML version, that is the way the latest versions of Excels are built, XML. And header is yes, we want the headers also, and the output type is SQL connection. I save it. Now the next step is obviously to fire SQL queries on that Excel. As you can see, you can get either you can type the connection string here itself, but now since we are using SQL connection variable from the previous step, it has automatically picked up the SQL connection variable, and here is the box to fire the SQL statements. Let's do a select star from, and generally as per SQL, what is the syntax? Select star from table name. But Excels don't have Excels have got a sheet that can be referred as a table name. So the one that we saw was records. This is the way to write it in square brackets followed by the dollar symbol. Select star from records, and then the result of this query should be stored in an output variable called query result. Let me expand it. the result from the database in the form of a data table with rows and columns. Let me click save. As a good practice, any instance that you have opened should be closed. By default, it will ask for an instance that is already available on my flow. There is only one. And now the variable to watch is query result. Let's run it. How many records were there? 700. What's there in query result? So far it has not executed the query. Second line. Can you see the query result? 700 rows and 8 columns. It has even closed the connection. Yeah. Let me open the variable. There it is. Even with column headers. This is a data table type of variable, and now you know how to access a data table. You can do anything further down the flow with this data table. Now we have this country. Let me show you something else that we can do using this, because it's very powerful to access Excels with high volume data. Yeah. So we are selecting star from table name, that is the sheet name, in square brackets with dollar. You can use even where clauses as you generally use in any SQL statement, where the column is country is equal to Canada. Let's try it out whether it pulls all the Canadian records. Right now there are 700 rows total. Let's see how many of them are for Canada. 140 rows. Perfect. When you open it, you should see the country column filtered for Canada rows. Here it is. So another powerful concept that I just mentioned is you can even filter the records from an Excel file directly using this select query. If you want Canadian rows, government segment, none discount and so forth, greater than 2500 units sold, if you give that clause, then that will be pulled up and so forth. One concept that remains in this is stored procedure. Obviously we don't have stored procedure right now in Excel, but I'll show you the syntax. Stored procedures are called using execute SQL statement, and the way to call that is exec space stored procedure name space. If stored procedure has got parameters, first param, semicolon, param 2. Okay, clear with this? Okay, good. That should conclude our database portions, operations, connection string, DB queries, and executing. So tomorrow we will see Windows automation. Why Windows automation? Because so far everything that we did in the previous session were using recorder. Now we will be using Windows automation related actions. Same for web related actions, any important operations to be done for Windows and web, and then finally an exercise based on the topics we learned. So tomorrow we'll finish module 6. Okay then, thank you. See you tomorrow. Bye.